Hi all, let's have a look at one of the more fascinating but very, very complex games from the recent US Chess Championship this year, 2017. Wesley playing against Alexander Onischuk. This is in round 3, knight f3. There's quite a modest opening from Wesley, he just plays like a reverse King's Indian to start off with. e6 does shut out this bishop for the moment. In the live book, for those curious, c6 is quite popular, or g6. Yeah, but also e6 is like the second most popular move anyway. So it has been played before, yes. Castles, bishop e7, c4, this has all been played before. b3, yeah, this is the second most popular move, quite often d4 here. So preparing a double fianchetto. b6, bishop b2, white has a good grip over the central square. It's quite a logical opening play by both sides. So c takes d now, knight takes d5, d4, white's firming up the grip on key squares like e5 here, knight d7, rook e1, so it looks to be preparing e4, and in fact yes, e4 now knight c3, so that e pawn is already supported by that rook on e1, c takes, knight e5. Now this is a curious moment. A very tactical move is played by Wesley in this position, which maybe a lot of players wouldn't be preparing necessarily. The move was queen e2, leaving, it seems, the knight hanging. Now this was actually ignored by Alexander Onischuk with bishop c5. Let's have a quick peek at this. If queen takes d4, perhaps the idea is knight d5, so hitting the queen and the bishop. If the queen protects via c5, well, it can't protect by b4 anyway, that's covered by the knight. So c5 is the only way to protect this bishop. If we hit the queen, you'll notice also in this position, the knight is loose. So we have bishop takes e5 here, and white gets back the material, maybe with some interest here after queen c4. It's quite an involved little combination actually, but here you can see white holds that c file, and with queen c7 coming, it looks comfortable for white, a small advantage. So perhaps for that reason it was ignored with bishop c5, and yet again we have, you know, the offer of a piece here. It's ignored yet again with queen e7. On bishop takes d4, perhaps knight b5 is the key move, and if black does a desperado, this position with that dark squared bishop, there's a lot of pressure here. This looks very, very comfortable for white. The amount of pressure here seems to be fantastic for white, with a beautiful knight on d6. So even though white is a pawn down here, it looks like a monstrous position. Small advantage for white at least. So we have here ignored again, you know, queen e7. But now after knight a4, it seems white is collecting by force virtually the bishop pair. Curious. It's an accumulation of a small advantage, which black can do nothing about. If he tries to keep his bishop, then f4 is winning a piece. Pretty tactical game this behind the scenes. If bishop b3, well, if bishop b4 a3, you know, it's ridiculous to consider that. So yeah, black gives up the dark square bishop. So white has the bishop pair, puts the bishop on e3. Now after knight c3, yeah, things are getting tense again after queen b4, queen b2. Now knight g4, yeah, black is playing quite energetically it seems. And after knight c e5, this is actually, although white has the bishop pair, this is tricky with that d3 square. And it's here coming up after a3, queen c5, move knight a4 is played, which seems to be putting black under great stress here, putting pressure on the knight hitting the queen. Queen b5 is played. A tricky position. Can the queen actually do this without further harassment? For example, bishop f3, isn't that possible? Well, in this position, actually, Wesley repeated here with knight c3. Let's have a quick look at alternatives. Bishop f1. Actually, it doesn't work. Knight f3 check. And actually then the queen can switch over here. and that's actually pretty dangerous, because also e4's hanging here, so there's no time to do anything about this. Taking here is knight takes h2, bishop takes e4. This is all over. Yeah, this is just going to be a forced mate if white's not careful. Doesn't bear thinking about that. So this is really dangerous. Bishop f1 is just clearly a weakness of the last move. I don't know. Yeah, it's not possible to do that without neglect, without severe Achilles heel of the move. So we have the repetition: knight c3, queen c5, and again knight a4, queen b5. So what does white do? What is black actually threatening? Well, black might be threatening here knight d3, forking queen and bishop, threatening structural damage and stuff like that. And also, of course, well, f2 as well. The other knight's on f2. So Wesley plays here. He doesn't go for a draw. He plays h3, and it's at a slight risk. This is black's chance, I believe. At least from an engine point of view, it seems it's black's chance with accurate play to actually at least have an equal position. But to the safest way to do it, apparently, it seems to take the rook, to get one pair of rooks off, then play knight d3. This didn't happen. If the queen moves, then we just take on f2 with the other knight. That's great for black. Black can escape. You know, the knights can escape. It's brilliant for black. But the way it was played may be an inaccuracy. Knight d3. This is just taken. Rook takes, and so two knights would seem good, but queen takes b3. What else here? Well, maybe there's better in rook takes b3. It might actually be, this might be a small inaccuracy for black to not take with the rook. With the knight hanging on a4, not too many moves. This position should, you know, technically be, if bishop f1 here, this should technically be apparently about okay, about equal, technically. But in the game we see queen takes b3, and white gets back in the game here with a small advantage, it seems, with this next move, bishop f1. Because now this knight, which is really dim on the rim, gets to the centre with tempo after takes, jumps into c4, threatening that lovely central square, d6. Now here, bishop takes e4, I think that's immune. It wasn't played because of knight d2. So mischievous knight as well, en route to a key central square. We have rook d8, and white's really in the driving seat after this. Already, maybe this was also making the position worse. Maybe rook d7 was better. So if knight c4, you know, black could take here at least, yeah. So if f3, it's a small advantage for white, not massive. But in the game continuation, with this continuation, the knight's going to a beautiful central square. And yes, black might be threatening g5 here to undermine the knight. So g5 is played, suppressing that. Now we have rook c3. Now knight b5. Sorry, not knight b5. Sorry, no, knight b5 is prompted as a move here, but no, it's interesting because it does seem to do stuff, you know, like let's say rook c2. Yeah, it's a different game. Let's go with Wesley So's continuation. He plays a4. Okay, we have rook c5, e5 here. Black was threatening to undermine the knight with e5 again. It's a tactical liability. So e5 suppresses e5 from black. Then we have this bishop e3, giving up that pawn. It's a very nice tactical move in this position. And black has created a weakness of the last move here, and you'll see that emphasized with this move bishop e3, because now after rook takes we have rook c1 threatening mate or winning the bishop. So we have rook d8, but now rook c7, all of a sudden f7 is a problem. So rook d5, knight takes f7, Now here, another clever move, giving the knight a square wonderfully, is g6. Great moves here. So a lot of structural damage inflicted on black's position with the knight escaping there. Knight takes e6, forking here, and there's no rook f7 because then we can just play rook c8, and that's actually a mate. Forget about the bishop. That's actually like mating. So yeah, this is difficult now. We have rook e8, check. It's all over bar the shouting. White's just big material up, and the king has been exposed. The game ended here after bishop d4 check. If black plays king h7, check, check. This is terrible. Just winning that rook with a discovered check. Well, first even saving the knight. Yeah, that's so. The game ended on bishop d4 check here. It's a very curious, fascinating game, in my view, and one of the key games of Wesley So to help him later win the whole championship. A very, very involved game to study. It's very, very interesting how Wesley So created a lot of tension, dynamic tension in the game, starting off with a reverse King's Engine, you know, double fianchetto. Very interesting scene of the game, the d4 knight being loose, then winning the bishop pair, but then black was, it seems the small inaccuracies help white actually get an advantage. But the knight, you know, hopping into the key central square, then hitting f7, echoes another of Wesley So's games where he hit on f2 with black. It seems a knight, you know, taking on f7 is a key thing. And in fact, even behind the scenes, there was also another variation I should really mention, okay, which was around here. Where was it? There was a variation. No, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find it actually. It's a shame, or is it? Oh yes, here. So you know, I mentioned black was threatening g5 to undermine the knight. It seems actually, as well as g5, there is the move rook c1 in this position. This does seem quite a tactical idea, actually, in the light of g5. If rook takes a3, rook c7 hitting f7. And here, believe it or not, there's a major tactic with these rooks configured like this. Can you guess? It's an engine line, really. But there's a major tactic which gives white a big advantage. Yeah, knight takes f7, check, taking, and then forking the rooks, the rook and king. But that's, you know, g5 seemed very, very logical. This is a very, very technical move. It would need to factor in, you know, g5 from black here. I was just curious about, you know, the f7 impact. If g5, oh, we can actually just take that. And if here, check, e5 hitting the rook, check. Oh, it's very, very technical, but white's apparently winning this threatening mate in one. If takes, well, that's giving up the rook. So yeah, there might have been a technical improvement at this point to play rook c1. It's a bit counterintuitive. Does need a lot of analysis, but anyway, otherwise an amazingly you know, technical and positional game from Wesley So as I mentioned. So okay, comments, questions, likes appreciated. Thanks very much.